Like 40 miles of bad road, it's the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. The Medicare podcast that crushes other Medicare podcasts like the bugs they are. His dream of attending a Redskins game is now crushed. It's Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Well, hello again, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to see you here today. Well, I can't really see you, but I know you're there. I can feel your presence, and I'm so excited to have another episode of the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast ready to go. And this is all for you, ladies and gentlemen. What we're doing here, as usual, is trying to help everybody feel confident that Medicare is going to be a solvable problem. Some people think of Medicare as a scary problem, but I see Medicare as a series of snap decisions that are going to wind up solving any problem that you might have thought Medicare would present. And the only thing you need is maybe a little good advice as to which way to go with each of those very easy decisions. And that's what I'm here for. How do I help you with those decisions? Well, I have published a book called Medicare for the Lazy Man. The current edition is 2025. It is available at barnesandnoble.com and at amazon.com. If you go to the website of your choice and type in the search window, Medicare for the Lazy Man, make sure you type in the 2025 so that you get the current edition. And then you'll have the opportunity to choose between the paperback edition, the Kindle edition, the Audible edition that you can actually listen to, or the $25 hardcover edition at Amazon that you can almost use as a weapon if you need a weapon for any reason. But the point is, you get the book, you get it to your favorite reading spot, you go through the first 10 pages or so of the book, and you will have all of my suggestions and recommendations wrapped up in a nutshell. In fact, it even says it right there, my recommendations in a nutshell. That's really all you have to do if you want to do the minimum of learning about Medicare. I would suggest continuing on because the rest of the book is, if not fascinating, because you can't really say that about Medicare, it's at least elucidating, and you will have some illumination as to why I have made the suggestions that I've made for you. But ultimately, I have 3 areas that I recommend you take a certain course of action. Simple to do. You need an insurance agent to complete those 3 courses of action, and that's where I come in. You're going to find my contact information in the book, and I will be waiting for you to reach out to say, it's my time for Medicare, help me out here, and then I will make sure that you can cross that Medicare finish line without any sort of problems whatsoever. Speaking of problems, there's a gentleman sitting on the other side of my screen who is a problem solver, and he and I have had a short meeting just before the recording here, and we solved another problem, which actually was my confusion. So thank you for helping me solve that problem, Randy Carson.
You're welcome. How are you doing today, Doug?
Well, I think things are going pretty well today. It's a beautiful, sunny, warm Arizona day. It's not going to be one of those triple-digit days, I don't think, but it's nice, and I feel as though I'm being held in the embrace of the warm weather gods, and I'm looking forward to that because I'm leaving for Arizona or for Illinois before you know it. I don't think it's going to be nearly as pleasant up there.
Well, I would have to agree with you, but I always whine because I love I love hot weather. If it doesn't blister my face when I go out, I'm not happy. So anyway, according to my weather station here, I'm sitting at 75 degrees, which is just marginal in terms of my happiness.
It's on the lower end of what you and I would consider to be a comfortable temperature, but you know that it's not going to be 75 in the middle of the afternoon. It's probably going to be in the 80s.
That's true. When I first moved out here, I used to tell Margaret Well, I said, Mark, 85, I know you think that's really hot because back in Nebraska, that is kind of hot because of the humidity. But out here, I said, 85 is perfect.
It really is. I know that people don't believe that, though. And probably even Margaret disputes that to this day. But
She still does. She doesn't believe a word of it.
yeah, well, I'll tell you, I have told this story many times. I'm going to tell it again. The first day that I had my part-time gas station job in Tucson while I was in college, I worked a 12-hour shift. It was either on a Saturday or a Sunday. Got up early in the morning and relieved myself, went to work, drank 20 Coca-Colas, probably smoked 40 cigarettes, and came home and realized that I had not been near the men's room all day, even in spite of having consumed 20 cans of Coca-Cola. And uh, when I did, it was black, like kidney cancer had set in. I was very afraid at age 23 that I was going to die an untimely death. And it turned out that it was such a pleasant 80s day in Tucson that I was perspiring, but it didn't even get my shirt wet. I was running
Yeah.
around at this big Texaco station, pumping gas, checking oil, checking tires, helping clients, helping customers. And I didn't even realize that I had sweated away more than 20, the equivalent of 20 cans of Coca-Cola.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I totally get it. And the other thing that I always tell about, people that don't understand this uh, environment out here is they come out and they don't drink enough water. So when I bring people into our place, I'm constantly pushing water at them or something else of liquid
Sure,
nature.
sure. Guinness, for instance.
Guinness, could be Guinness, could be martinis, could be a lot of different things. But bottom line is, I'm always pushing water at them because, if you're not used to that, I mean, they could walk down the street, on a little stroll to look at the neighborhood and go face down because they're dehydrated.
Well, I don't really understand that because I've been out here off and on many, many times since I was a little kid. I used to spend the winters out here when maybe hydration wasn't a big deal in January and February. Um, but I mean, hydration wasn't a popular thing to talk about back in the 70s. And, we all just relied on our own thirst mechanism to get us through
Right.
whatever we needed. And now it's verboten to drink from a garden hose like I used to enjoy when I'd be mowing the lawn in Illinois.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
it's the world has changed, and delivery of water in bottles is one of those changes that just doesn't sit right with me for some reason.
Well, as you and I both know, we both grew up drinking out of a water hose.
Hell
So,
yes, we
but
did.
but so then ultimately, when they started not even flavored water, when they started bottling just plain old water
Yeah, yeah.
and a bottle, I'm going, gee, that what kind of an idea is that? I've got a hose out here, but ultimately, people will not drink anything that's not bottled anymore. For God's sakes,
Yeah, it gets to be
I
force of
drank out of
habit.
I drank out of a horse trough. I'd move the moss aside, and I would drink
Sure.
out of I would drink out of the green watered horse
W-
trough.
Well, you'd move the moss aside with one hand and the horses' heads with the
Well,
other.
yeah, yeah, they were absolutely there with me.
But here's the other thing. I've got a military canteen. If I've got to take water someplace, I'm going to take it in that canteen and not some sissy girly water bottle. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be
exactly.
I don't want to be seen carrying one of those things around.
Yeah, I've got I used to have it. I don't have it anymore, but I used to have my dad was a Navy guy and he had a not the big round canteens like you always see it,
Yeah,
back
two
in the
quart,
olden. Yeah, he had a more compact one that
a one
fit.
quart.
Yeah, it fit into like a holster.
I've got a
And he
belt with the canteen canvas
Yeah,
wrapper,
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and what you do with that, especially if you're in a warm climate, is you dip that in water. You get that soaked, and the evaporation will help keep your water cool in your one quart
Oh, I
canteen.
never knew that. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. What does it work
So
with Guinness?
uh, let's try it. I don't know. Let's give it a try. Hey, you know what we ought to do? We ought to do some work for the people who are interested in Medicare knowledge.
Well, okay, I got it. I got it. So
Yep.
anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mute out and you
Yep.
can kick it in.
Yep, I try to start every episode. I used to have Randy's help, but I have failed to make a new list for him to join me with. So every episode, I try to find a Medicare Advantage item in hopes that I can warn people that Medicare Advantage is not the way you want to go into Medicare. Medicare Supplement is the way to go, and that's the type of insurance coverage is going to stand you in good stead as you go through your life with Medicare coverage. It's going to provide the best protection. The only problem is it's not completely free, but I've devised a way to make Medicare Supplement be reasonably priced, not free, not cheap, but inexpensive and reasonably priced. So I like to keep up with Medicare Advantage news in order to make sure that people are aware that Medicare Advantage is something to be avoided. So I've got an article here that I culled that actually was marked up by the content curator, and the headline is Medicare versus Medicare Advantage. And the upshot of that is ill health often leads to a plan switch. And the article goes on to say the drawbacks of Medicare Advantage plans can become apparent when serious injury or serious illness or injury strikes. Medicare Advantage plans are attracting seniors with their appealing price tags, like zero sometimes, and the promise of comprehensive health coverage in one convenient package. But are these plans actually a disadvantage for people with serious health problems? That's the question raised by a string of recent studies. A 2017 review by the U.S. Government Accountability Office, for example, found that some Advantage plan enrollees in poor health were substantially more likely to dump that plan than those in good health. A recent study by Brown University researchers found that Medicare Advantage enrollees are more likely to enter lower quality nursing homes compared with people on original Medicare. That's because Medicare Advantage plans, and I've had several people suffer this consequence, Medicare Advantage plans will tell you where you have to go for recuperation after surgery. If you can't stay in the hospital, you won't have the choice of a nursing home or a rehab facility. Many of my clients have had that problem, and it looks like Randy's on the verge of interjecting. No, apparently not. Okay, I misread the signals. Apparently, I owe him money. That's what that signal meant. Hey, dude, pay up. So here's the deal. Earlier studies also found that people using high-cost services such as nursing home care disproportionately switch from Medicare Advantage to original Medicare. If they can. That's the thing. Will the law allow them to do that? Medicare Advantage tends to work for people when they are relatively well. But if they become ill or injured and really need a significant length of care, they're not as well served by Medicare Advantage. Wow, the sea of yellow has stopped. I think maybe that's the only thing she wanted me to take away from this article. So I'm going to have to wait until another episode to find out if there's more pithy information in this article. But you got the gist. I think the headline pretty much says it all. Medicare versus Medicare Advantage. Ill health often leads to a plan switch because Medicare Advantage is not good coverage to have when you're sick. It only works for people who are well. That's when it works best anyway. And frankly, I say in my book, I've said every edition of my book, Medicare, there's nothing wrong with Medicare Advantage plans. They're excellent plans of insurance for people who don't need health insurance because they don't go to the doctor. They don't have any interaction with the medical, industrial complex at all because they are healthy and they don't need to have their medical problems taken care of. When one needs a lot of medical intervention and treatment, the Medicare Supplement plan is the only plan that's going to serve you well as you seek treatment. All righty. The next thing we do on a regular basis is dip into the gigantic database that is codified in the book, Your Medicare Benefits 2025. I want to thank my client or my would-be client, Anthony. He's a nice guy because even though he chose to go with his company's retirement plan and shine me on, He still listens to the podcast occasionally, sends people my way, and he sent me a link to the copy of the current edition of Your Medicare Benefits. It's a government publication. It probably, if you had to put it on a scale, it would probably outweigh most medium-sized carnivores, and it's probably the equivalent of at least 1.5 major oak trees chewed up and turned into paper. It's a massive publication. What we're going to do today is we're going to examine home health services to see how Medicare would handle home health services if you actually need them. So Part A and or Part B of Medicare cover eligible home health services as long as you need part-time or intermittent skilled services, and as long as you're homebound. Now, homebound is defined as needing, the following conditions. You have trouble leaving your home without help, like using a cane, a wheelchair, a walker, or crutches, special transportation, or help from another person because of an illness or an injury. Two other items. Leaving your home is not recommended because of your condition, or you're normally unable to leave your home because it's a major effort. So covered home health services would include the following: medically necessary part-time or intermittent skilled nursing care, part-time or intermittent home health aid care, only if you're also getting skilled nursing care at the same time, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech or language pathology services, medical social services, injectable osteoporosis drugs for women, durable medical equipment, medical supplies for the use at home. Medicare does not pay for 24 hours a day care at your home, meals delivered to your home, custodial or personal care that helps you with daily living activities like bathing, dressing, or using the bathroom when this is the only care you need, and homemaker services like shopping and cleaning that are not related to your plan of care. How often? Well, in most cases, part-time or intermittent means you may be able to get skilled nursing care and home health aid services up to 8 hours a day for a maximum of 28 hours per week. You may be able to get more frequent care for a short time if your doctor or other health care provider determines that it's necessary. How about the costs? For all covered home health services, you pay nothing. After you meet the Part B, as in Bravo, deductible, you would pay 20% of the Medicare approved amount for Medicare covered medical equipment. But of course, that wouldn't be true if you have a Medicare supplement. Then that 20% that you would normally have to pay would be treated entirely differently. Things to know. A healthcare provider, like a nurse practitioner, must have a face-to-face visit with you before certifying that you need home health services. A healthcare provider must order your care, and a Medicare-certified home health agency must provide it. So if you're interested in learning more about how Medicare would treat home health services, go to this website, medicare.gov/coverage/home-health-services. And that's going to do it for the Your Medicare Benefits 2025 today. I am so happy that we have the updated edition of that book. So what else is going on in the world of Medicare? Well, I was sent some correspondence by a gentleman who's been a client for a couple of years, and he's got a mild complaint, and he wanted to make sure that I was aware of some event that occurred in his home state. So here he is. His name is Robert, and he said, "Hi, Doug." I just got this morning, by the way. He said, "I've referred several lost Medicare wandering souls to you and to your book, and a few have shared that you have been a great help. Just an FYI, though, somewhat insignificant unless you live in Virginia, but as of July 1st, 2025, Virginia will have adopted the birthday rule." Now, he says, "My birthday is in June, so it's of no consequence for me this year. But in 1.5 years that I've been your client, I have sustained a 19% increase with my high deductible Plan G, and I will consider comparing in 2026. Is comparison something you do for the birthday rule? Thanks, and keep up the outstanding work." What a nice guy. Well, here's the situation that occurred to me when I read this morning. I got up early in the morning to handle my correspondence. Robert is right, probably, that he has had a 19% increase. Now, I actually was thinking that he was with me for 2 years, and 19% divided by 2 is about where I've seen the premium rates increase, and that's, like 10% inflation going on, which has over 2 years caused a 20% increase. Well, his has been 19, but he's not happy about it. He wants to see if it's in line with the other good companies that are in the Medicare supplement market. And so my thought was, of course, I'm going to help Robert by showing him the other companies to see if there is a better deal for him. Now, when he applied for his plan, he says 1.5 years ago. I was thinking it was more like 2 years ago. The monthly price was the best one out of all the companies in my portfolio. It was $44 a month. And if you add 20% to that, we're up slightly over $50 a month. Still a great deal compared to the cost of a Plan G. But for high deductible Plan G, Robert's feeling the pinch. So I looked quickly at another company that I have in my portfolio. And if Robert has somebody living with him or a spouse living with him, and he's eligible for their household discount, then the monthly premium would be $39 a month if he were to take that. And even though this is a company that has not a less than stellar track record of maintaining rate stability, the undeniable lure of saving somewhere around $14 a month would be appealing to Robert. It would be a worthy alternative for him, and I'd be happy to have him get that plan. Now, can he get that plan? Because July 1st is when the law went into effect. His birthday was in June, so he thinks he's missed it by a year, but I'm going to check on it because the law says you have 2 months in Virginia after your birthday to make that switch. So does the insurance company that has this cheaper plan, do they consider him to be eligible for a switch this year? Even though the law wasn't in effect on his birthday, it is in effect for most of the 60-day period that he has after his birthday, that he has the right to change plans. And so I want to find out if this company would consider Robert to be eligible for the birthday rule switch to a cheaper product. And you know something, the birthday rule is, I think, an important consideration for a lot of people out there because it allows people to improve their situation if their current insurance company has cost them more money than the average of the market. Now, the reason this could happen is there are many reasons why an insurance company will raise rates. Sometimes it's as unimportant as they don't like the guy who's in charge of the sales efforts in that part of the country. All these people have marketing employees, and some of them are more likable than others. And I've seen situations with some companies where it's just been a personality clash. In other situations, they want to discourage people from purchasing the product in certain areas, and it may be because the legal environment is not as friendly to insurance companies. In other situations, they're losing money because of a few big claims. When people suffer in a fire, for instance, that becomes a hugely expensive treatment. That's one of the types of claims that cost them more money, at least historically. And so it might be that they've suffered a big loss, and therefore they raise the rates to try to recapture some of the lost profit that they've had to pay out in treatment to people just a few people who have had huge claims. So there are many, many possibilities for an insurance company having rate increases that are larger than average. And in some cases, insurance companies will offer a loss leader rate to attract new business that's lower than everybody else's. And people will go for that like flies to poo-poo because people can't seem to resist a deal. So there is one major company out there who has a ton of business, and what they do is they offer a low introductory rate, and then they'll ratchet the rates up over the course of time faster than the other insurance companies. And before you know it, if you're not proactive like Robert appears to be, you're going to find yourself paying more than everybody else for your coverage. And it's identical coverage, so there's no reason to have to pay more. So the birthday rule makes it easy for you to do that without having to prove evidence of good health. Birthday rules are becoming widespread. They used to be almost non-existent except in a couple of New England states. Now they exist in many other states, and other state legislators are considering the passage of birthday rules. So what's going to happen here is that most states are going to have eventually a rule that allows you to switch to a different company at some point in the year. It might be your policy anniversary, it might be your birthday, and you'll be able to do this without having to prove that you're healthy. Which is always a stumbling block when you're dealing with somebody that's been around for a long time. It's there's generally a questionnaire that you have to fill out, but a birthday rule would offer somebody, in this case in Virginia, 60 days after your birthday to change to a different company and either keep the same coverage or get reduced coverage. And I think there are a million people out there who have Plan F. Those people were not allowed to buy Plan F after after 2020, but people who have Plan F were definitely taken for a ride. The laws changed in such a way that Plan F is now overpriced almost everywhere. And I would love to talk to anybody who's got a Plan F and even a Plan G in order to show them how much money I can save them. Because instead of paying a big, expensive premium, they can just put that money in their pocket and pay the small premium that the high deductible plan offers. And then if they need medical treatment and they have to pay their 20% of a little bit of that, then what they do is they pull those savings out of their sock drawer and count off a few $100s, put the rest of it back in their savings, and contribute their 20% of the cost of treatment. So it's a great way to save money, but not too many people know about it. And it's, I think, a piece of news that needs to be spread, to be talked about, because I think it would do a lot of good for a lot of people. And Randy Carson is looking at me like, hey, you know something? We still have money in the big machine that controls the time, but I think I've pretty much discussed all the important elements that I've got. Randy's got a thought, though. Please share that thought with us.
I have a question. It never had, I mean, you've talked about and discussed the birthday rule many, many times, but one question that never occurred to me is if your state has a birthday rule,
Mm-hmm.
how often do you get to use that? Could you jump back and forth every year using your birthday rule?
Yes, you can. You can use it every time it happens. So you got a birthday this year, you can switch companies. You got a birthday next year, you can switch back.
Wow, that's really a good opportunity.
It is a good opportunity. Now, there are people who say that it's not good because it perverts the marketplace a little bit. If you allow people to switch insurance companies without having them prove good health, then you've allowed the new insurance company to maybe become victimized by somebody who has higher than average claims. So that could be a drawback, and that could drive up the rates for everybody in the state. However, I don't believe it actuarially drives up the rates all that much for everybody in the state, and it does allow people who are trapped to resolve a problem that they had no idea was going to happen to them. People who are older who bought Plan F in good faith years ago had no idea that that the laws were going to change, the federal laws, and the market was going to turn against them. So they deserve to be saved because they did not create the problem that they're currently suffering with, which is paying way too much for insurance coverage, way more than they need to pay.
Well, you would think over the course of time that people jumping from using the birthday rule, people jumping from Plan A to Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. You would think over the course of time that would all even out.
You would You would
You
think
wouldn't,
so.
there's not going to be one great big massive rush of people to a particular provider.
Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. When people are in poor health, they get very savvy about finding the cheapest insurance that will accept them. Now, if one company says, "Oh, we'll take everybody," they become a target for all the people that have poor health, and that
Yeah.
means they're going to pay out more in medical claims. So it's going to cost them more. They have to raise the rates higher or faster in order to stay solvent.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I know of one company in one state like that. It's the only company in that state that will take applicants without asking any health questions, and that becomes that makes them a target, and their rates are higher than everybody else's. So,
Is that Fred's insurance?
I know of Bob's Insurance
Bob's
and
insurance.
Aluminum Storm Door Company.
Yes, I knew that. I knew that. I've heard that name before, but ultimately, hey, you pay your money and you take your chances.
Well, if you're an insurance company, you do, but that's why they want to examine everybody before they assume the risk. So they would like to have you fill out a health questionnaire, but this particular company, Bob's Insurance and Storm Door Company, they're not allowed to by their charter in that state. So
Right.
they try to keep it a secret, but the word gets out occasionally.
There you go. There you go. Well, you know something? Our quarters are gone.
I figured they would go eventually.
Yes, so I need to close up shop here before the quarter police come get us and charge us for, instead of a quarter, every 15 minutes, they'll charge us like $400 every 15 minutes because
Well, I hope you wrap it up quickly because I'm sitting here looking at a fire engine down the street. And
oh,
I want to know who's
oh,
going to be hauled feet first out of their house.
is it looking really hard at one of your neighbors?
Yep, absolutely. I think they actually got out of the truck and went inside, so they're preparing to do something, and it's not put out a fire.
Not good. Okay, well let me go ahead and close up shop here. We have a few things we always do, and it doesn't take long. But if you're wanting to reach out to Doug and ask some questions or make a comment or two, you can do so using the email address of dbj@mlmmailbag.com. He is licensed nationwide to help you with your Medicare supplement planning. Check us out at the website, medicareforthelazyman.com. We would appreciate a review here and there when you're wandering through the internet because we're still trying to keep ahead of the travel logs. And if you are with us regularly, you'll know why that is. Certainly not last, and certainly not least, but thank you. Thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere else doing anything else, and you weren't. You were with us. And that's exactly where we like to have you, but you haven't taken time to check your watch, I'm sure. You have just spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the anti-insurance insurance guy, originally from Oklahoma. No more, he's up in the high ground behind Cave Creek, Arizona. And I'm going to put him in, you'll know the reason why. I'm going to put him in at about 32,000 feet.
Wow. Thank God for that oxygen tank I purchased recently. Randy, I'm going to say thank you in spite of my visceral dislike of altitudes. And to everybody else that's listening, I'm going to say thank you for joining us because we've always enjoyed having you with us. And I'm hoping that you come back and join us again for our next episode. Bye-bye.